What is up, you guys? Cinema Colin back here again. Sorry for the lack of videos the past few weeks. I've just been busy with family and with starting a new job, so those things had to take priority, but I am back again, and I wanted to bring you guys my top 10 anticipated films of summer 2016 video. Now, starting off at number 10 is a film that I hadn't really heard much about, but after seeing the trailers and just hearing about the plot, it looks funnier and funnier every time, and that is Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates, starring Zac Efron and Adam Devine, along with Anna Kendrick and Aubrey Plaza. This film just looks like a really funny, raunchy summer comedy, and it's about these two guys that they ruin all their family events, and they're told that they have to get a proper wedding date to their sister's wedding, and it just looks like a really funny, raunchy comedy, and I'm very curious to see how it turns out. Now, coming in at number 9 is a film that a lot of people are unsure about, and I was after seeing the first trailer, but after the second trailer came out, I was less nervous, and that is The Legend of Tarzan, starring Alexander Skarsgård, Christopher Waltz, Margot Robbie, and Samuel L. Jackson. This is continuing the telling of Tarzan. It seems like it's an origin story as well as a continuation, and it just looks like a really cool film. It's got a great cast, and I'm very excited to see what they do with Tarzan. I've enjoyed some of the Tarzan films. I grew up with the Disney animated version, and I know that Tarzan's always been a staple of Hollywood, so I'm very curious to see if David Yates, who directed some of the Harry Potter films, can keep the myth of Tarzan alive for a new generation. Coming in at number 8 is one of the most longly anticipated sequels, and that is Finding Dory. This, of course, is the sequel to 2003's Finding Nemo, and once again, Ellen DeGeneres is coming back as Dory. And in this film, it's along the same lines of what happened in the first film, except this time, Dory is going back trying to find her family, and Nemo and Marlin are trying to find her and help her along the way. And the trailers for this look great. The casting looks awesome, and I really just love Pixar films. I love Finding Nemo, and when it comes to sequels, Pixar seems to either go really well or not so great. I'm hoping that it goes more like the Toy Story sequels and not the Cars sequel. So here's hoping the wait was well worth it. In at number 7 is a film that not many people are talking about. There's only been one brief teaser trailer, and it's a film that I think has a potential to do very well, and that is Pete's Dragon. Now, after seeing The Jungle Book earlier this year, I am very excited to see the live-action Disney films that are to come, minus obviously The Looking Glass. That does not look that great to me. But this film has Bryce Dallas Howard and Robert Redford, and it just looks like a great film about a boy who was in the woods for several years, and he claims that there was a dragon in the woods with him, and I've never seen the original animated film, but something about this film just makes me very curious, and I think if done right, it could be a really great fantasy film, and we need more fantasy films, in my opinion, that aren't just big CGI fests, that actually have a good story, and if anybody can do it, I think that Disney can do it. In at number 6 is a film that many people, when they first heard about, they just kind of rolled their eyes and they're like, really? And that is Angry Birds. Now, I know what you're thinking. This app is turning into a movie. Now, hear me out. I was not a huge fan of Angry Birds when it first came out to, the App Store. I have played it before. I wasn't a huge fan of it like a lot of people are, but the trailers do look funny. I like Jason Sudeikis. The casting looks good. Bill Hader is the voice of the pig. Josh Gad. And so the casting is more so what excites me, and the animation, than knowing that it's the Angry Birds game. And, this year I think if video games are going to be able to do well as films, 2016 is the year, with films like Warcraft and Assassin's Creed coming out later this year. I think if any year we can finally have a good video game movie, 2016 will hopefully be that year. And at number 5 is XMen Apocalypse, continuing the long-running X-Men franchise, of course. Now, This film is supposed to be set in the 1980s and is kind of a continuation of the trilogy of X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past, and in this film, a new team of characters or younger versions is going up against Apocalypse, played by Oscar Isaac, and you have people return to the franchise like Jennifer Lawrence, Michael Fassbender, James McAvoy, and you have newcomers like Olivia Munn. And this film, I have to say, I'm not as excited about it as I want to be. I'm still looking forward to it, but I'm not super excited like I was about Days of Future Past. And even with Bryan Singer returning once again to direct, and I like Oscar Isaac, I think he looks like a good Apocalypse. This film, there's something about it that I'm just not as thrilled as I was with the last X-Men, but it still looks interesting enough, and I'm still curious to see how Oscar Isaac does and how they conclude this trilogy and where they're going to take the X-Men franchise next. In at number 4 is probably one of the biggest risks of this summer, and that is Seth Rogen's Sausage Party. Now, when I first heard that he was making an animated film about food, I was like, okay, this could be interesting. After watching the trailer, though, the Red Band trailer, I was laughing my butt off. It looks hysterical, and of course he's bringing along all the usual people in his films. He's got Jonah Hill, Danny McBride, Kristen Wiig, there's Selma Hayek, and tons of other great actors and actresses. And this film is basically, for those of you who don't know about food, they're in this little happy world of theirs. Then they realize what humans actually do to them once they get out of the grocery store. And it just looks like a really great original animated film. I think it's definitely going to be a big raunchy animated film, but I'm very curious to see how it turns out. And I think that Seth Rogen, he has been known to do some pretty funny stuff in the past. I know this is the end of a few years ago was really big. I wasn't a huge fan of The Interview though, but I think this is one film that definitely could turn out to be a huge hit. Speaking of comedies, another comedy that looks really awesome, coming in at number 3 is The Nice Guys, directed by Shane Black and starring Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling. This film, every time I see the trailers, I just end up laughing more and more. It just looks like a great duo of Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling. It looks like another great buddy cop film, but yet it still feels like it's going to be original enough that it's not going to follow every other buddy cop that's come before. And it's about these two private investigators that have to work together. There's a huge mystery set in the 1970s Los Angeles, and just everything about this film reminds me similar to how Rush Hour was, or The First Lethal Weapon, or The Other Guys. And like I said, it just looks like a really great buddy comedy. I'm a huge fan of Ryan Gosling. I like Russell Crowe. I think Shane Black did a pretty good job with Iron Man 3. So I would say this film could be the hit of the summer as far as comedies go. I'm very curious to see how it turns out. Coming in at number 2 is a film that will hopefully make people more excited for the DC Cinematic Universe, and that is Suicide Squad, directed by David Ayer and starring Will Smith, Margot Robbie, Jared Leto, Viola Davis, and Joel Kinnaman, just to name a few of the many that are involved in this film. And this looks like it's going to be DC's version of the Guardians of the Galaxy. I feel like this could be the mega hit of the summer. And more importantly, this could be something that will help revitalize the comic book genre, as people have been complaining over the past few years that it's starting to get tired and wearisome. It's just doing the same thing over and over again. But I think this will be an original comic book film that'll be fun, but also have some darker, more serious elements to it. And as we saw earlier this year with Deadpool, audiences do like to see different types of comic book films. They don't just want the same origin story over and over again. And I think that this film will help to keep the comic book genre going on strong. And my number 1 most anticipated film of summer in 2016, if my shirt didn't already give it away, is Captain America Civil War. Holy crap. Everything about this film has looked amazing. The trailers have been awesome, and the casting in this film, you can tell that everybody that is returning to their roles, Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., Scarlett Johansson, just to name a few, they own their roles by now. They're so used to it and comfortable in those roles. And then you have Chadwick Boseman joining the cast as Black Panther and Tom Holland joining the cast as Spider-Man. And this film just looks amazing. I love the Civil War comics. I know that it's going to be a lot different than the comics. They're very loosely basing it on that adaptation. but Anthony and Joe Russo did an amazing job with Winter Soldier, and I'm very, very excited to see this film, and that's why Captain America Civil War is my #1 most anticipated film of summer 2016. So you guys, those are my top 10 most anticipated films of summer 2016. Let me know down below what films you guys are looking forward to and what films aren't you guys looking forward to. And as always, you guys, thank you very much for watching. If you want to keep up with what's going on my channel, you can follow me on Twitter at CinemaColin, like me on Facebook at CinemaColin, or also follow me on Instagram at CinemaColin as well. And if you like this, guys, you can always click right here to subscribe. Once again, you guys, I am CinemaColin. Thank you for watching. Take care, everyone.